Trivago was his favorite place to praise Brian. Eric found out about his brother Ohio, who was lost in Trivago's hotel, and fortunately met the CEO of Tom's Entertainment Company, Jacoby Bryant. Overjoyed, Eric shook Jacoby's hand with gusto. Power surged within Eric from the spiciness of their handshake. Eric's heart thumped with the force of 1,000 sausages and lettuce. All of the French bourgeoisie were appalled at the actions of Eric and Ohio, because they did not have any more baguettes to spank people with. Jacoby became the one and only ruler of the baguette. They proceeded to declare war on Brian's Committee of Brown Men's Glory. But it was short-lived, as Brian smited Ohio and Eric and Jacoby and the bourgeoisie. Suddenly Big Man Sean bounded out with Dr. Reverend Grand Admiral Arbiter James Hudson Widener III. Flabbergasted, Brian exclaimed, "Why has this happened as I supreme world leader?" One measly bourgeoisie crawled towards Big Man Sean, but Brian spotted him. His name was Marco Malischuk. Summoning his sharks, Mako hurled his massive cardboard cutout of Tony as the gnome. Brian proclaimed the blasphemy of this baguette to attack me, the almighty, majestic, magisterial, powerful, altruistic, dominant, legendary, paramount, all-consuming, indispensable, universal, distinguished, existential destroyer of mankind. Marco was terrified. He took one last breath before he was smoked into smithereens. From the smithereens a man emerged, and that man was Michael Willison, Esquire, the third magistrate of Beans. Michael ventured into the unknown forest where he beaned his wife. After this, Michael decided to kill several of the chickens with a baguette. Later, Michael cooked his tea inside a chicken fortress. It was magnificent and tasting and incredible and chicken and yummy and wondrous a time. Michael said slowly, "Bog, progress was being not made. Instead there were Jello chickens now." Salamence destroyed all of the real chickens and Josh's Jello chickens with a forklift made of cheese. The cheese forklift tasted yummy. Michael ate chickens in the cheese forklift. Progress was not being made again. So then Michael slaughtered his dog Quixote for Brian, but Brian did not approve of these actions made today. He decided to ride a chicken into hell where quails lived without homes. Tiny B rose out of hell and then visited his mother, who lived in Pakistan. Pakistan was in Brian's Canada, where Canadian vendors sold out chicken beans. These were the times when, concerning capitalism, Michael wanted to bang his pots with his pet chicken Rabbi. When Tiny B heard what Michael was banging, he knew what he had to step up. Brian thought stepping on children was fraudulent in Pakistan. Meanwhile, Michael continued to bang his pots with ebullience. Michael, weary, wanted Tiny B to beat beef ostentatiously with orphans. Sean rose from the dead people smelling like chickens. Brian saw this as indecent. Michael saw this as an opportunity to bang weasels poggers. One man who was not a human man, baby Tiny, did not want to visit Siberia with lettuce but not ham beans. This man's name was Big Man Sean. Together with Dr. Reverend Grand Admiral Arbiter James Hudson Widener III, they conquered Malaysia and Mesopotamia and Canada and Tajikistan and Latvia and Lithuania land, Estonia and Chatham Mars. After Brian saw what they had done, he was displeased with them and their crimes against humanity. Brian summoned his river goat in order to smite the outlaws. Dr. Reverend Grand Admiral Arbiter James Hudson Widener III personally committed violent acts upon the weak chickens poggers. Pachamp was the word of choice by Dr. Reverend Grand Admiral Arbiter James Hudson Widener III. Unfortunately, Brian was hellbent on weaving the tapestry of lies. Except Brian cannot tell a lie. Factually, he is too smart and virtuous and big and massive and huge and muscular and humongous and miraculous and godlike and poggers. Brian clashed with the two, usurping all of the aforementioned countries. After receiving his bona fide liquidity, Brian could not resist temptation. He destroyed all mankind. However, Brian did not want to destroy all of mankind again, therefore he did not do it. Furious, Brian consumed everyone but no one in anger. Humanity was saved. It was Thekuntala. Following Sean was epic. Epic Eric was epic. This is factual. However, Epic heroic Eric Tuberculosis had Shawn the white brown man in a duel. The man baby Taney also rose to fame and grew in stature. Without Shawn, Brian closed his factories forever. A small town man child named Taney was bad. He was not good. Lacking stature, he could not reach the top of the cheese wheel drawer. Cheese was currency in Malaysia. Taney did calculate the mass of Brian's cheese wheel collection. Wheels of cheese vindicated forever. Sandwiches completed with lettuce and spicy cheese beans were raining down upon Brian's household. Using his massive arms and mental power he vaporized the man fetus Taney instead. Whoops. Calculators are obsolete. Goodbye. Sayonara. Bon voyage. Adios. Farewell. Arrivederci. Bayatai. Au revoir. Aloha. Gotta go fast scram. Sonic ran faster than Bernie Sanders' afternoon. Brian baked Sonic a pie filled with beans. Shawn couldn't consume the pie tomorrow. He could not consume the pie because it was property of the big man Brian and his pie associate Shawn the white brown man yesterday. Finding nothing within the pie, he cried tears of petulance and spite and disgust and horror and rage. The Commonwealth of Brown Men decreed the white man Tony as Bonkshank be exiled by the Big Three, which is also Brian. The big man Brian and Eric the Epic Three, which is also known as the Covenant, went to Pakistan. They decided to excommunicate Epic Eric because he didn't eat his daily dose of beans. What blasphemy! The disappointed Brian sighed and said, "Your betrayal has cracked deeply within my heart. I am except this is false. Die. Scum. Trash. Famine upon your land now. Shame upon your family. Weep. Dishonor upon you Epic Eric and the cow now. Find the Avatar and reclaim the cheese wheel and the beans." So Epic Eric set off on his journey to find Pablo Escobar, the drug man lord. Also he needed to find Pablo's avatar Jacoby Bryant, who was not actually dead. In Marco's realm there was cocaine. The Schlopes raided the establishment with Marco and Epic Eric and Pablo Escobar. Epic Eric found a master in earthbending, who slapped Tony as Bonkshank into Jeff Bezos's condo. The avatar Thekuntala Jacoby Bryant did not approve Thekuntala of Thekuntalaing his rheumatoid arthritis kneecaps today. Pain surged through his kneecaps with gusto and shock, causing ripple effects, and throughout all of the parallel universes. Josh fell down the stairs again because he lacks iron. He found legs downstairs, they broke his legs. With the legs, Epic Eric flew into Paris. Bacon is tasty with and soap is tasty with bacon beans now. Those beans are great. They said that Brian was large, which was very true. Epic Brian was massive. Brian signed the contract with the Commonwealth of the Brown Men. In fact, they created a new domain called Thekuntala. Car owners were sad. Precincts were sad. The pot of bacon and eggs, perfectly mixed with beans, was cooking. In Brian's humble abode there was a raid bean named Violniz Chak. Violniz signed the contract as a highly valued confidant. Beans were honorable citizens of Thekuntala. Shawn did not enjoy this. He slurped Bean Violniz out with a metal straw to save the turtles. Good job, Shawn. Meanwhile, Brian was furious. He resurrected Violniz so that Shawn would not commit win. Shawn was devastated. Brian was triumphant. As always, dominance overpowered the fragile and Brian prevailed. Once upon a time, there was a large man who shadowed Brian the biggest. Never did he witness Brian's true power. The power level of Brian is as follows: unparalleled decisive ability, with supermassive arms, zesty charisma, ferocious strength, and beans. Namely, baked beans. Using spatulas, the biggest man Brian taught Joel his legendary, unparalleled comrade the word of lettuce. Joel had never known such a powerful document. He popped some popcorn, and lifted his car. Brian was amused at Joel's attempt to suppress his Latimus dorsi with popcorn kernels. Once it popped, it just blew all the elks in the land. Flapping his cheeks, Joel Jins decided to steal the popcorn prince. This broke the sound barrier immensely. Alerted, Brian took spoons and fire, also quality water sewage. Joel grappled the illustrious Prince Edward. Brian beheld the northern water lights. This dismayed the big countryman Joel and his superior Brian, the intelligent, massive, and Gertie. Michael started a war he couldn't win, but he would try. Brian easily construed Michael's gluteus maximus with hubris. Evidently, Mitchell had lost immediately. Brian said, "I am disappointed in you, average human of earthly bounds. Despite your massive pectorals, you ascertained nothing at all, weakling. I procure one humanoid to hypothesize that obtaining all grain would result in fortitudinous fruition of impressive bread." After ventriloquism slapped Bernie in oblivion. Later, Brian slept on clouds, decreeing his fate as immortal. This was deceptively challenging to construct because of the impediment. Meanwhile, in Vegas, Michael swatted a 3-story condominium solely for the memes. Afterward, he flexed his large dactylion on Epic Eric blatantly. This upset Brian immensely. Brian decided to construct a temple to sacrifice Michael, and eliminate the poor. The man was Michael, and he wasn't exorbitantly overjoyed about his impending doom ahead of him. Brian deleted Sean along with Michael, Toby, and Doggo Frank. Frank reeked of carrots and various types of drugs and wheat and hamster meat. Marijuana is a bad lunch for a Frank. Poor Frank. The Doggo Frank barked at Brian. Mr. Ken whipped out the largest sandwich with mayo and salami and spinach and blue. Delicious. Scrumptious. Lettuce rained and poured onto Yorkshire Terriers bawled. Brian manifested his destiny by exerting powerful gamma rays toward Lettuce, the worst man alive. Disheartened, the large man Michael was directed to collect taxes after he committed crimes against humanity. Brian did not approve of this affirmation, so he fined Michael for fraudulent tax evasion actions. Michael stooped on the ground by Brian, weeping and sobbing, asking Brian for forgiveness. But Brian said, "You shall be given nothing, for you are insignificant." Brian knew the all-destructive god of seas and skies and every vacuous being in Camelot, tear apart fabric to exude from massive fortification. Inevitably, you quiver when I euthanize fetal organisms. Judging by your stupidity, you are white. Brian excavated Michael's backyard looking for Josh. Determined lord of average, small, miniature, minuscule, insignificant, negligible, stupid, diminutive, cowardly farmers. He shot Josh. "Ouch," said Josh, who collapsed suddenly and seized the chance to grapple his gun toward Malaysia, but he shot Japan 56 times. Japan was defeated by the big pure lad, large man Brian. Malaysia suffered damage. That was enough to incinerate the entire Eastern Hemisphere. Surprised, small lads such as Josh and Tony as Bongshank decided to plot revenge. This was a mistake. Why? Because Brian vaporized everyone. But all progress was lost. Sad face, says Tony as the small young gnome needs his favorite waffle. There was no pancake in Tony's future stomach. Except his pancake wasn't bad, it was terrible. "Seek," said Nobody Johnson, who loved waffles. Except waffles didn't exist. Pancakes are bad. Progress has not been made. Waffles bad. Wrong was vileness. Who is wrong? Duh. After there was war, between pancakes and women fought for segregation between races. Woe, said the white large child who hated Man Baby Taney. Man Baby wanted nothing. Extrapolating, Tanabe calculated how long Josh's lifespan was, and how many fingers he lost in the Iraq War. Was the total fingers he had lost. Now, Obama broke Josh's space-time continuum by obvious muscle mass. Ouchie, said Obama after eliminating Skipper the Frog Goat. Bah, was what he said. Evidence was pointing towards gratifying Lunchables being homogeneous. When shenanigans ensue, panic occurs. Obviously, Brian doesn't panic. Clearly, Josh panics. Josh went to Turkestan with fireworks in his suitcase. So shot him times in the chest and leg and heart. Surviving this occurrence, Josh canoodled his brain, causing large casualties for Turkish men and Siamese cats. Man baby was Taney, and he hated Josh. After Josh got dead, Taney revived his Josh. They decided war on Australia was the only thing that they could do. Australia signed the treaties with Josh, ensuring Tony's Bonkshank would suffer extensively, disrupting the space-time continuum. Narwhals plunged into the frigid refrigerator, taking Josh for ransom. Their fee was worth pesos. Million pesos. Pesos were worth fettuccine tacos. These grand fettuccines showed what was the beef. Yum, beef, says Gandhi the Gadhapolis. Distressed, Brian milked Josh's mom with spatulas, and she was interested in learning how to cook. Josh, being Josh, couldn't survive kitchen torture, which is evidently worse than normal perils. Normal perils include death, French pilots, eating raw salmon, and other delicious fates. Josh then signed a contract with Brian, and bound his life to eternal subjugation. Decidedly, Brian hailed Gandhi, but he was dumbfounded at Josh's mom's power. She found power in the caves of legend, receiving endless and grandiose salad-spinning skills. Josh's legs were shrunken down to a miniature horse's size, defying the laws of general relativity and thermodynamics and physics and constitutionality and exponents. Josh's legs angered his mother senator, who birthed him with force proportional to jet engines. Michael heaved massive omelets across the Pacific Ocean and killed the Josh. Josh wasn't alive, but his soul was. Josh's soul yearned for sustenance, and it compelled Josh to revive himself fully. Josh respawned at the basketball moon. Bawling was frequent among the Brian and incarnations of big men, like Brian, the largest and massivest and hugest and girtiest and biggest pectorals in the precinct, and he won the race to the 15th victory. Amendment which granted Josh in specific circumstances the right man. Josh died. He is dead. Dead. Very sad and dead, he died. His death shocked no one. Life finds a way to war. Says Brian, and ate a wild boar sandwich. Later, he decided to hit Josh's antelopes, which feared him due to his abuses of massive black mussels which contained multitudes of innocent antelopes, shredded with mussels and cheddar cheese. Skulls adorned Brian and his armor, which was golden Netarit. "Bro, this sucks like your mom," said one big man named Brian as he dabbed on the weakest body liberals in Josh dealership. Armed with muscles and facts and intelligence and raw meat, Brian fashioned a club sandwich into a mouth-watering club sandwich that transcended beyond human imagination, comprehension, and subjectivity. Was done with living, but he simply died. Brian found his eggs on Benedict Arnold on crack. Group of A's. That's what he sounded like in purgatory for eternal great damnation. Fortitude stopped him from interfering. Things were out of control. Like for the club sandwich collapsed fully into a singularity clause. Breathing out of his mouth like a pathetic moth flying into dandelions, burning with fire. Passion led to the destruction of Acordia, and Canada and France and Hogwarts and half of Brazil. It looked astronomical. It looked like translucent apples. It couldn't. That Mr. Eggs was going to have to eat rye bread and die. Mr. Eggs died. He perished. Lol was all anyone that cared could say. That was epic. Bend over till dawn. Mr. Eggs is dead. But someday, he will rise again. Seek, Mao. Multitudinal necrophilia ran against Joe Biden for president and George Bush, one-man army, of the Brazilian Commonwealth of brown men. Mr. Eggs tasted like eggs, surprisingly. Josh died in bed again dreaming of death. White men, and died horribly. James Hudson Widener Esquire, revered legend and extraordinaire and in practice, scholar of motherly totality, which encompassed compound doings such as your mother and mom. Violence against vileness Chekars ensued. Rising communist regimes decided to execute and order elimination of Moses. Moses cried. Burning vileness was the hilarious option. To agree. Vileness died. Josh is dead again. Subsequently, he stood by his loyal gravestone Kaimaya the Gravestone. However, Kaimaya the Gravestone required cheese. Josh Tribulations derived from many fixitales collected grandiose germane resultants of various actualities. Help me, said Josh and Josh Tignalala, man baby Mistleton AB123 ABCF def JSV Zia zip MKV film tree move SVG. Svit said atom more and the biggest legend Slovenia since Brian, muscular lad huge god of godliness Sire Esquire 17th man. Sean exemplified epicness and finalized the future, bringing joy to all who saw Trivago. Hotel? Trivago.